Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to League Racing TV here for round number 12 of the Esports Masters League console Tier 1 Championship, where, of course, it is the season finale. We are here at the end, round number 12. We head to Abu Dhabi. Yes, that is right. We head to Yas Marina in Abu Dhabi, and of course it is going to be a very, very fantastic race. Of course, last time out there was unfortunately no stream due to me having to sort out a few personal matters, so I do apologize for that. But here's the top three from last week. So taking the race win in Texas was, of course, FRT Nico. So a big result there for FRT. Second place was CPI Fraser, and of course in third place was Neverlast Racing's Coolman. And unfortunately, what that has done in terms of the championship is meant that Neverlast Racing, even though they did score more in that race than what CPI did, it wasn't enough for them to keep the championship alive. That is correct, ladies and gentlemen. CPI are the champions of Season 8 in Console 1 here in the Esports Masters League. And Neverlast Racing are currently second, and they have a healthy advantage over Visio Racing, but mathematically it's still possible for a switcheroo to happen there. But it is in Neverlast Racing's hands to keep a hold of second in the championship. In the same way, EVE have a pretty sizable gap to GT10 in fourth. So those kind of positions are pretty much solidified, I would say, in terms of the championship standings with CPI, Neverlast Racing, and Visio and GT10. The interesting battle, the battle for fifth between FRT and IRT Esports, only 6 points separating those two teams. OVR, after what was a fantastic start of the season, have kind of fallen away in the latter stages of the championship. Remember, at one point they were battling with Visio Racing and GT10 for that top three spot, and they have found themselves now down in 7th place, where they have a lot of work to do to get themselves into a position where they can take a top 5 result. And it seems a little bit unlikely, but we will wait and see if OVR are going to be able to pull anything out the bag here. Of course, VMV with a couple of good results in the last couple of rounds have managed to pull themselves clear of FGE False Group Esports in 9th place, and then of course Legacy Racing LR, they are currently down in 10th place. They have scored some points, so the second half of the season has been much better for them than the first half. They have managed to put some points on the board and get themselves into double digits, but it might just be a little too late case for LR, as they are sizing up the potential of the final spot in Console 1. Looking at the driver lineup here tonight, for FGE, it is Ashraf and of course Powers. I'm just going to make sure that there are no last minute changes. In fact, there was one, but that's regarding OVR, so we'll get onto them in just a moment. And in fact, yeah, is regarding OVR. LR coming through with Red Flame Joe and Stan Polaskas in the Mercedes. Then, of course, so CPI, we have Omar and Finley in the McLarens for the championship in EML in CPA. GT10 coming through with Quads and Acid in the Scuderia Ferraris. EVE coming through with Lafitte and Plex in the Aston Martins. And then, of course, in the Alpines, it was meant to be Nico and NASCAR in the Alpines, but unfortunately, Nico has had to drop out. So Groot is going to be taking his place in that seat in the second of the Alpine cars. So it is Groot and NASCAR in for them. In terms of VMV, it is Indian and Rizzo in the Williams for VMV, Nico and Wards for FRT in the RBs. In the Saubers or Neverlast Racing, we have Kuhlman and Lars. And then last but not least, for IRT in the Haas, we have Sieb and Leon. That's, of course, the lineup for tonight. Guys, for one more time, massive shout out to our sponsors at Ronin Printworks 3D. Of course, doing fantastic 3D designs of steering wheels, etc. And guys, without further ado, I think we should head out to the action out on track because qualifying is underway. And I believe in terms of who is about to get themselves on a lap, I'm going to go on board with Red Flame Joe right now. So he's coming to the end of his outlap. So let's see what the LR driver is going to be able to do as we come through the penultimate corner now to get ourselves set up for the first flying lap of his session. As we come down the start finish straight in towards turn number 1. As he tries to make sure he doesn't drift too far wide on the exit and pick up an invalidation. Now coming through turns number 2 and 3, keeping it nice and tight through turn 3 as we head down the hill in towards turn number 5 at the hairpin. And there is a Sauber that is stationary right there. I'm not sure what's going on there. Let's see. Well, I believe that is I believe that's Siren for Neverlast Racing. That is just stationary out on track. But into the chicane goes Red Flame Joe as the last person in a initial lap time of 21.8, a good lap time there from Lars. As Red Flame Joe, DRS wide open now coming to the middle sector split, and it is a 52.5 for Joe. Going for the sweeping left-hander now as we come into the final sector of the circuit, and of course very different to what it used to be over the years. I mean, the layout's pretty much the same, but it feels a lot wider now compared to what it used to be a few years back. And of course the trickiness at the start of the middle chicane definitely has taken away an element of difficulty when it comes to the two chicanes that we had right there. But first lap times are coming now. Lars there on provisional pole with a 21.8 ahead of Nico in second place on a 21.9, who is half a tenth ahead of Leon for IRT in a 21.9. And of course this is important for this team battle between FRT and IRT. Both of them checkerboards. It's checkerboard right now. Nico just ahead of Leon. Leon's just ahead of Woods. Ward's just ahead of Sieb. As we see a Plex on a outlap, so we'll come back on board with him in a moment's time. We got Ashraf here for FGE in the middle sector, and he's about a second off of what we saw from Red Flame Joe. So I think it's just a case of getting a lap time on the board. In fact, he might have invalidated on his run because he's not really using the ERS as you would expect. So I think Ashworth is just going to be coming back into the pit lane in just a moment's time, as Watt and Finley are on outland. So Plex will be the next man to start his flying lap, so we'll stay on board with Plex now as he's coming through the final sector. Coming through the final corner now for Plex as he runs down the hill in towards turn number 1, throws the car in 4th gear, and now looks to get himself set up for turns number 2 and 3. And through turns 2 and 3 now, through the left-hander turn number 4, coming into the hairpin at turn number 5, and we're going to be seeing some lunges down there, that is for sure. I'm not entirely sure what's going on with Cyrus' car, as it is just parked there. I'm wondering if it's been a bit of a bug or a glitch now for the second and never last racing drivers, because Cyrus is in the pit lane on my end, but of course says that Cyrus on track is literally at the hairpin, but Plex in the middle sector, we saw it flash up purple momentarily. Now that could mean that it is purple in terms of Plex's runs so far, but it also could mean that he is purple for the entire session. We're coming through the final couple of corners now with the EVE man. Through the penultimate corner, he'll come 6th gear, the gear of choice, now dropping it down into 4th, final corner, hooking it up, runs too deep on the exit, and it would have put him into P3, but Plex running just a little bit too deep, and that is his lap over and done with. But Quads on a valid lap in behind. Finley improves it with a 21.6 from the CPI man, who is of course a part of the championship winning team, as Quads goes up into P5 just behind Leon, so good going from him. Lafiti in the first sector is purple. NASCAR just getting his lap underway. Plex under big pressure to make sure that he can get a good representative valid lap time on the board, because he's got a very good invalid lap time, so he's got a delta to work off, but it's just a case of whether or not he's going to be able to go ahead and get all this done. I mean, we've got Lars right now on a lap, currently P2, and he's over at 10th up in the middle sector. Someone's actually just put in chat at the same time as I had a little look over, and there's the invalidation there from Lars. Heartbreak for the Neverlast Racing driver, as you see the back end stepping out in the middle in the final sector, and that is his lap over and done with. But yeah, great minds think alike there. Scorleon in the chat, as I was about to hop on board with Lars actually. As Lafiti there improves on the provisional pole position time, as he goes up on provisional pole with a 21.6, coming on board with FRT Nico. He's in P4 right now, coming through the final sector, has a car in front of him, one of the Hasses. I believe that might be Seb just ahead of him, as there's the invalidation there for Nico, not ideal for him. Seb also invalidated, as we had improved lap times coming through from Wards as well as Acid. Putting themselves up into a good spot. Red Flame Joe coming through the final corner now for LR as he comes to the line. So almost a 3/10 improvement, puts himself up in the P10. Indian 3 times up in the middle sector, coming through the final sector now is the VMV man as we come to the final corner, breaking down 4th gear, throws the car in, does not drift too far wide, and he's going to cross the line, goes to P11. As we got Groot for OVR over 2 tenths up on his lap time, but he's going to need a lot more in this final sector if he wants to really get himself into the top 10 here. Because he's 3 tenths up, which might jump him ahead of Powers in 13th place, but he needs a lot more if he wants to get himself any higher in front of the likes of Seb, Indian and Red Flame Joe. But for the final corner now will come Groot, and it's a 3.5 tenth improvement, so he does put himself into P13. Rizzo is obviously on his in lap. Astrif is just starting his lap, so we'll come back on board with him in just a moment's time. We got Finley on a out lap. We've got Omar, who is also on an out lap, a little bit further ahead, and Omar needs to get a big lap time on the board right here, because it's going to be a case for Omar where he might have to start from the back if he's struggling this much, because you see him there missing his braking point, going way too deep into one of the corners. And yeah, I think maybe Omar, lack of practice coming in by here. He seems to be a little bit over the place, and he's a full 16 seconds off of the pace in terms of the lap times that have been set so far. But let's stay on board with Omar. Maybe he's trying to beat us a little bit, and that's not the best way to start the lap time if you are the CPI man. But running down in towards turn number 1 will come Omar now, and yeah, I think a lack of practice here for the CPI man is what is plaguing him. So we won't showcase Omar's lap now. We'll give him a little bit of dignity as Finley on his flying lap. Half a tenth up in sector 1, coming through the hairpin now. Rishi saying Omar for pole, just you wait. I mean, I am more than happy for Omar to prove me wrong with it, but it seems like a lack of practice in not knowing the braking points for Omar. They're coming on his lap, so I mean, we will see. Maybe he is trying to beat us. Maybe. But Finley now, middle sector split. The CPI man, he's just under a tenth up on his lap time, and he is going to have his teammate directly in front of him, and he is catching him quite rapidly as we come through now. And the Lars though improves with a 21.5. Big lap time there from the Neverlast Racing man as he goes up onto provisional pole. Finley now coming through the final corner, 4th gear, throwing the car in, and to the line will come Finley, and Finley goes on to provisional pole. It's a 21.42.5 tenth improvement from the CPI man, and these two are in a battle. Lafiti though has just got his lap underway, and he's up in sector 1. Will Lafiti put the EVE's Aston Martin on the front row in pole position? That is going to be the big question here as we run down into the chicane. DRS wide open. 8th gear dropping it down into 3rd, under braking, getting the car rotated, looking for a good exit out of the chicane, and that will set you up with the dose of DRS now down towards the middle sector split. Two attempts improvement so far in the middle sector from Lafiti, and it is enough to put Lafiti on provisional pole. As long as he can hold the time that he has so far in the final sector, he will take provisional pole away from CPI Finley. As we come through the final corner now with Lafiti to the line, and he just isn't able to hold the time in the final sector. He does miss out on provisional pole position, but is still the front row for Lafiti right now. As I believe both of the GT10 drivers are coming back into the pit lane. We got NASCAR here. Currently V8 looking to get himself a little bit further up the order. I believe he is still on a lap here. In fact, no, he bails out and comes back into the pits. 3 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. Indian is on the in lap, I think. Sieb is going to be coming into the pits as well. Rizzo also into the pits. Omar, I think it's definitely going to be coming into the pits, but this is going to be very, very interesting here as Omar not taking the correct pit lane entry right there. as Omar's actually retired from the session. I don't know, if I was Omar, I would have gone back out. Every lap that you can do in qualifying, especially if you're coming into it with no practice, does matter. So, I mean, if I was Omar, I would have come back out and seen what I could have done on a final lap. But maybe Omar saving everything for the race and having another set of soft tyres might be beneficial to him. But we shall see. Ashraf for FGE about to get his final lap underway here as we got just over 2 minutes to go remaining in the session, as we should be seeing all the cars now flooding out of the pit lane as everyone is going to be scrambling for track position and to get the best of the conditions here at the end of qualifying. But coming through turns number 3 with Ashraf, and let's have a look at the first sector split. Is he up on his time? Yes, he's a 10th up coming into the hairpin. So it looks like Syra is still a little bit bugged out there, down in 19th place, just parked on the apex of the hairpin. So hopefully we can find out from someone in NLR what's going on with Syra. Is Syra completely disconnected from the lobby and that? Or is Syra DNF'd on Syra's screen or something like that? Just let me know. 4 times improvement so far from Ashraf, coming through the middle sector split, sweeping through the left-hander, and now of course into the final sector, into the heart of the final sector, as we come through the hotel section, as we throw the car through, sliding everywhere is Ashraf as he comes through the final corners now to the final corner, breaking down third gear, shifting into fourth, and to the line will come Ashraf, and it is P17 for Ashraf here, as we got Plex on a flying lap as well, and I believe Plex might be the next car to come to the line that is actually setting a lap time. So we will see how that goes right there, as everyone now is getting themselves in a position where they're going to be setting a lap time. We will jump straight from Plex to the likes of Finley and Lars, as we will see in just a moment's time. I believe Finley is ahead of Lars on track, so we will jump from Plex to Finley, then to Lars, and then to Lafiti. I know we got Wards and Nico also on laps as well, but we're going to stay on board with Plex here. Needs a lap time on the board, does not have a lap time as of yet. It's all come down to this, the final corner, this time keeping it valid. To the line will come Plex, and it's P8 for the EVE man, as we go on board with Finley, who's up by just a margin. Lars is down by a 10th. And Lafiti is down by a little bit in the first sector, but let's stay on board with Finley coming through the final sector now. 3 thousandths of a second up in this middle sector, and let's see if Finley is going to find any time in the final sector to improve on the advantage he has. NASCAR goes up in the P3, displacing Lars, and Finley does find more time in the final sector. Lars though comes into the pits, he can't improve. Lafiti is 2 times down in the middle sector, he's not going to be improved. Nico is not going to improve, and I think that might be qualifying over and done with. Indian is up in the middle sector. Let's see what Indian can do in the final sector. Can Indian get himself into the top 10? Through the final corner will come the VMV driver to the line. It's P13 for Indian, and I think that is qualifying over and done with. CPI Finley takes the final pole position of the season. Lafiti in second will join him on the front row, and then we got OVR's NASCAR and Neverlast Racing's Lars holding the second row of the grid. as we will be running you through the order in just a moment's time. And ladies and gentlemen, for the final time this season, we'll run you through the qualifying results. It is CPI Finley for CPI taking pole position ahead of Lafiti, who will join him on the front row. NASCAR and Lars in 3rd and 4th, with Woods in 5th, Sieb in 6th, Nigo in 7th, with Acid in 8th, 9th is Squats, and then Leon for IRT round out the top 10. Outside the top 10 we have Plex, Red Flame Joe, Indian, Powers, Groot, Rizzo, Astrif, Omar and Syra, who will be starting from the back of the field after a very interesting bug which I've not seen before in terms of this game, and I know it's not something that we want to see, but yeah, it seemed like a big old glitch there for Syra, unfortunately. But Finley starting from pole position, of course. CPI, as mentioned earlier, are the champions here in Console 1 for Season 8 here in the Esports Masters League. Now, even though they are already champions mathematically, it's impossible for Neverlast Racing to catch and overtake them. What they need to do is make sure that they don't get themselves in a position where the points get deducted, because that is not what any of them will want. Because CPI has worked incredibly hard to get this championship, and they will definitely be heartbroken if anything does happen that costs them to have a point deduction, which ends to giving Neverlast Racing a chance to come back at them in the championship. But with Syra starting all the way down towards the back, same with Omar, it's up to Lars to really do the job for Neverlast Racing in terms of keeping himself ahead of what's called the EVE, chasing Neverlast Racing down in the standings. FRT and IRT very close in terms of qualifying. FRT getting the better though of IRT in qualifying. They are a little bit ahead as well in terms of the championship. Could be very interesting to see if FRT are going to be able to solidify P5, or if IRT is going to be able to do enough. And that's not right off OVR yet, because OVR are capable of some big results here, and they could definitely come back in this. They can definitely score enough points to get themselves back into that top 5 shout. It is going to be an uphill battle, but they can definitely do it. And of course, VMV, for them, they're pretty solidified in 8th place. FGE and Legacy Racing, I think, well, it is possible, it is unlikely that those positions will change. So really, the main battle in terms of the championship standings that we're looking at is that battle for P5 between FRT and IRT, and obviously the outside chance of OVR coming back into it, and obviously the outside possibility of EVE jumping NLR or GT10 jumping EVE. But quick reminder of the points system here in EML, as I'll just bring that up real quick. Of course, there is a maximum of 42 points available to every single team in a race weekend. Of course, CPI taking the pole position point already means that they extend the gap even more in the championship. And of course, for them, they're probably looking at trying to break the 300 point barrier here tonight. But 22 points for the race win, 18 points for second place, 15 points for third, 12 points for fourth place, and then fifth place gets 11 points, sixth place gets 10 points, and it goes down in increments of 1 all the way to P15, where you get 1 singular point. Of course, the fastest lap of the race point is available for all the drivers out on track. So if you are having a bad race, sometimes it is worth it to keep going and maybe go for that fastest lap at the end of the race. Guys, while we are getting the lobby reset, we will be back after this short intermission, so we will see you on the other side. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back as we are just about getting ready to go into the action here for the final race of the season in the Esports Masters League, the final race of Season 8. And of course, the champions were crowned last week in CPI. And of course, well, they are mathematically already the champions. The only thing that could ever prevent it right now would be any point deductions, which they haven't gotten any so far this season, to my knowledge. And CPI have always been very good when it comes to that kind of thing. So I don't foresee that happening. So, but CPI have driven absolutely fantastically over the course of the season and are thoroughly well deserved champions of Console 1. It is a shame, of course, last week we wasn't able to bring you the action of them taking the championship victory in the circuit of the Americas last time out. But we are here for the season finale, and the battle for P5 in the championship is the closest battle in the championship to go off of. But at the same time as well, there's still outside possibilities of some position changes, obviously up and down the grid order, as you can see here. Of course, the main battle between FRT and IRT is the one we will be focusing on for the most part. But of course, Neverlast Racing, they're not completely safe from a Visual Racing in behind, and Visual Racing are not completely safe from GT10. Same with OVR having the ability of potentially catching up. But we're going to head to the action out on track, because we are going to those 5 red lights to get underway for the final time here in Season 8. And it's lights out and we are underway, and already Plex and Powers have retired from the session. We've already lost 4 drivers. Is it a restart? Hang on, I need to check the Discord real quick, guys. Bear with me. I believe this might be a restart. We've given the amount of retirements we are seeing on track right now. Give me 2 seconds and I'll just have a gander. Yes, there was an issue with the lobby, so we'll be heading back on track in just a moment's time. Unfortunately, our lobby host forgot to remove Ghost, so everyone will be retiring on track, and of course we will be getting the race going momentarily. But as I was saying before heading out to the action on track, OVR still have an outside possibility of catching IRT and FRT. VMV seem pretty safe in P8, even though it's mathematically possible for FGE to catch them. It's very unlikely considering the pace of some of the other teams in tonight's action, in tonight's race. And the same with LR catching FGE. But you never say never in F1. Anything can happen, and it usually does happen, to be fair. I do believe, however, one thing that I can mention, in a fortnight's time, on the 30th of April, ladies and gentlemen, there is a social race that is happening on the 30th of April. And of course, the social race is for the upcoming Nations E-League, which of course will be getting underway on the next game cycle. In the brand new game cycle, we're going to have a social race to give us a little taster of what we can expect going into the next game cycle. For right now, Esports Masters League Season 9 is on the back burner. The Nations E-League is what is going to be priority moving forward as we go on to F1 25. But with the social race next week, potentially a lot of very, very good drivers that are coming in to compete in that particular social race. It's going to be very interesting to see how each nation is going to stack up against each other, because it's very different. Obviously, in terms of what we see with regards to EML, in terms of like esports teams, we normally see the drivers working together very well. So like Nico and Wards, for example, like working together very well. Finley and Omar working together really well. Acid and Quartz working together really well. But of course, they work together really well as part of the esports team that they're in. When it comes to Nations E-League, if they are racing, they would be split apart because of the nationality. And that throws a whole another dynamic into it. And of course, in terms of what we've seen previously when it comes to teams representing the nation in terms of competing, obviously we've seen in the past the I forgot the name of it, the European Esports Championship a few seasons ago. Obviously, that was a very fantastic event and that to be a part of. And I'm hoping the Nations E-League will follow suit with that and carry on the standards of which we was seeing. Like, we saw some incredible stuff. Obviously, Taito Hardy taking a victory at Zandvoort obviously during that event, and it was a fantastic victory for Team Netherlands that night. And will we be seeing more up and coming drivers and that? Because obviously Taito Hardy has gone on to greatness right now. Will we be seeing more up and comers coming through the next wave of esports talent here on the F1 game cycle? Will we be seeing any of them emerging when we go to the social race and to the Nations E-League on the next game cycle? That is going to be the question. But for right now, we are going to jump back in to the action again here, because we are heading back to the track. Of course, a quick turnaround in terms of getting the lobby reset. There was a setting that was wrong, which is why we had to do the restart for a second time real quick. But we will be getting to the action in just a moment's time. Of course, Abu Dhabi, a very, very tricky circuit. Hopefully everyone remembers the setups. Of course, the 5.2 kilometer circuit, first introduced in 2009. And who can forget the incredible championship battles that we've seen here in the past. Of course, Hamilton Verstappen being the most recent one in terms of memory. But who can forget 2010, where we had Fernando Alonso, Sebastian Vettel, Lewis Hamilton and Mark Webber fighting for the championship going into the final race, and Vettel sealing it to win his first world championship, his first of four, I might add. But yeah, two DRS zones, one down the run in towards the 6-7 chicane, and then of course one from the turn 8 corner all the way down to the swooping left-hander of turn number 9. Gonna be very, very intriguing to see who is going to come out on top here. And of course, if we're going to see any big changes in terms of the standings by the end of it, because the way it's looking at the moment, it does seem that the battle for P5 is the main one to keep an eye on. But you just never know. You just never know. As my controller has decided to go kaput, but that is okay. I have a second controller ready and ready to go, which is fantastic. As we await the drivers to make sure they got their setups on to perfect their strategies before we head to the action out on track. And in fact, we are going to go to the pit lane for right now, as all the drivers are getting themselves psyched up again to go racing, to go to those 5 red lights here. And I believe we will be getting underway in just a moment's time. I believe everyone is waiting for the all clear. I'm pretty sure everyone has had enough time now to get the setups sorted. And there we go. To those 5 red lights we will go. And it's lights out and away we go, and it's a good start there for Lafiti as he runs down the inside in towards turn number 1 side by side with Finley, and Lafiti is into the race lead. Lars getting caught a little bit by NASCAR, who manages to hold on, but it looks like NASCAR, they might be struggling with a little bit of internet connection, as you're seeing the ghosting going on there. As Wards there gets through, and NASCAR is falling down the order quite considerably, and yet lagging all over the place is NASCAR. So heartbreak for OVR right there, back up towards the front. Lafiti leading the way as Finley is going to put in a challenge. Side by side goes the McLaren and Aston Martin here, and look at that in behind. Lars trying to follow through, trying to get his nose in there as well, and Lars has gone for a spin. Lars hitting the back of Lafiti and has gone for a half spin. Falling down the order is the Neverlast Racing driver, and that is heartbreak for Lars and Never Last Racing in this race. Omar also down towards the back along with Zaira there. Seeb trying to battle out with both of the FRT boys, but this is not good for IRT. They need Leon up there in that battle as well. In the midfield though, look at this, 2 by 2 like Noah's Ark goes Indian and Groot, and of course Lars and Powers the NBN. Lars trying to recover after the half spin, trying to get himself back into the action and trying to get himself back up the order. Of course, Lars a very quick driver and definitely will be making his way through the field, so we'll keep an eye on Lars's progress, as he will be 100% carving his way through some of the traffic in front. Flex with a good start, he gets himself up into P7. Let's have a look at the tyre compounds everyone has gone for. A set of hards across the board, apart from Omar on the set of the soft compound tyre. Saira has come into the pits, I'm assuming for a front wing change, and let me see, a set in the mediums now going on the Neverlast Racing car, and that is heartbreak there. Meanwhile, Rafiki gets back through on Finley. DRS is now activated, so this is where we're going to see the switcheroos happen for the race lead, as you will get the DRS to run down to the chicane, but then the person that didn't have DRS on the main long straight will have DRS to the second straight. As we've got Omar has gone for a spin as well. He's at the moment coming out of the hairpin, not ideal for him. Meanwhile, Nico down the inside of Seeb, and this is full position as Seeb has to back out. Last with a 3-second warning, and that might hinder him because he is now all over the back of Groot, but Groot has lost DRS to Indian, and a virtual safety car has been deployed here on lap number 2 as we go on to lap number 3. Harvey saying, can you show the tyres? Yes, I can. The tyres have been shown. But the top 2, Finley and Lafiti, great start from them. Lars was getting in the action, had a half spin off the back of the Lafiti's car. Let's put him down the order in the mixer right now, and that's not ideal for Neverlast Racing. Of course, we got Omar down there who is really struggling and really taking some adventurous lines coming into the pit lane there. Yeah, I think Omar just hasn't done practice, so he's not at the speed with this circuit. And yeah, he does retire. I think Omar understands that the more he's out. So Plex with a drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car. And I think potentially he's not the only one. So I know Seba potentially had a 3-second, the same with Lars, but did they pick up a drive-through? Let's have a little look. And no, they did not. So just a drive-through for Plex, the EVE man. Had a great start, but now that is race effectively done for Plex, unless the safety car comes out to Roscoe get himself back into this race. Omar, by the way, said leave the F1 before it leaves you the rear wing damage and front wing damage. So he had all the damage going, did Omar, but of course lack of practice as well is also going to play a factor into that. So I think what Omar has done is probably best for not only what's called his race, but also for CPI, and of course for everyone in terms of the lobby as well, because if he's struggling that much, it becomes a very, very real risk that if you are racing against Omar, you may end up not necessarily DNFing, but having your race potentially ruined, especially if he's got rear wing, front wing, and in terms of damage, as well as of course not being up to speed around this circuit from the looks of things. But yep, back to the action. Lafiti is still on the back of Finley for the race lead. Then we got the FRT appearance of Ward and Nico in third and fourth, and Sieb there in P5, sticking with him, waiting for his opportunity to get through on him, but he does have a 3-second time penalty, which is going to be heartbreaking for him when he has to serve that. Now, as it currently stands, FRT is a big load of points that the FRT are gaining here. I don't think it's going to be enough to get them any higher than 5th, but we can't rule it out in terms of what potentially could happen, because Quads right now is of course going to be behind them, as we got both the FRT guards switching position, same with Lafiti and Finley for the race lead. But Quads right now doing the job for GT10, which is enough right now, I think, to hold on to 4th place for them. The interesting thing will be if Quads falls away from what's called the top 10, then it'll be interesting to see if FRT have enough to overhaul and get themselves ahead of GT10 in the championship. In terms of the battle for second in the championship, it would have been a lot more interesting before the drive-through penalty for Plex, because that's dropping him all the way now out of the points. Same with Saira being out of the points, but Lars with a lot of work to do, currently in P10, 2 seconds off the back of Indian, who is in the DRS train for the race lead. It's going to be difficult for Lars to get himself back into this, especially with that 3-second time penalty as well. But it would have been very interesting to see if EVE would have scored enough points to jump themselves ahead of Neverlast Racing. That would have been the interesting one. But we're going to stay up here now, the battle with the guys at the front, as it looks like Finley happy to sit in behind Lafiti for the time being. FRT lads stay in line astern, as Joe still doing a good job there for LR. As we got Indian looking for a potential move on Leon, as Finley gets the job done on Lafiti with the second bite of DRS, and he is now back up into the race lead, but under a bit of pressure in this final sector from Lafiti, who seems to be a bit comfortable in this sector as he comes through these corners. Just seems a lot smoother than what Finley is at this moment in time. But that may also be Finley just being a little bit distracted, let's see. As we got Fatal saying hello in the chat. Hello Fatal, how are you? Hopefully you're having a fantastic Wednesday evening, as Lafiti looking at potentially going for a move on Finley into the hairpin, but thinks better of it because he knows he's going to get DRS, and he knows he's just going to be able to cruise straight past. And this will be the interesting thing now, if Nico can get close enough to potentially go for a move. He closes in quite a bit, but not close enough to go for the move. But now a good launch here out of the chicane could allow Nico to get the job done on Finley, and he's actually going to go for it. He's on the ERS, he's got the DRS, He's going to look to the outside line, going in towards turn number 9. Around the outside will go Nico. Is he going to have the grip and the traction? No, Finley's going to be able to hold on to it, but it's not over yet. As Nico, in fact, no, it is over now because Nico has backed out and he's going to tuck him right behind Finley in this final sector. It did look like for a moment that Nico had the run, potentially have a look down the inside, but decided not to risk it at this stage in the race. Lap 7, about to go into lap number 8 of 29. Lafiti leading the way ahead of Finley in second place. Nico there in third, Rewards in fourth. Sid currently in fifth place, but with a 3-second time penalty. Quartz in sixth. Red Fling Joe for LR in seventh. Leon for IRT in 8th, and then of course we've got Indian in 9th place, and these are the guys in the train for the race lead. Then 3 seconds off the back of these guys we have Lars with a 3-second time penalty, the lead Neverlast Racing driver, and he has a DRS train attached to the rear of his car of Apollos, who has just overtaken Lars. Up in the P10 now goes the FGE man, as Quads getting the move done on Seep, but Seep is not going to give this up without a fight as we run down. Speaking of not giving up without a fight, Nico had a little look on Finley, but then Finley has gone for the move on Lafiti around the outside. Smooth as you like from Finley, back up into the race lead goes to CPA man. As Quads and Wards side by side in the final sector, the Ferrari versus the RB, the GT10 man versus the FRT man, and FRT coming out on top there as we have Steve possibly looking for a potential overtake. Fatal asking, how are you? I am doing perfectly fine, Fatal. How are you doing, my guy? Hopefully you're doing good. Plex with a 3-second time penalty there, and it's gone from bad to worse for Plex. After the drive-through penalty, he is now pretty much in no man's land, absolute no man's land for the EVE man, and that is not helping them in terms of being able to get a hold of second in the championship. Because realistically, I think as long as Lars scores points, like Neverlast Racing should be safe from EVE, even if Lafiti takes a race win. What they needed was Plex up there as well, but that drive-through penalty has completely destroyed EVE's hopes of a second place in the championship, and that is Nico with a double overtake into the race lead. He goes, the FRT man, looking to put on a big charger. And remember, FRT, they're in a battle with IRT for 5th place, but it's still mathematically within question that FRT can catch GT10 in the standings. Can FRT pip GT10 for 4th place in the standings right at the end of the season? Time will tell. As Quartz right now in P5 looking at the back of Wards, but with Nico in the race lead and Acid all the way down in 12th. I mean, this is a huge amount of points that the FRT are gaining on GT10. As Finley will get himself set up to potentially go for the move on Nico in just a moment's time. As Wards under pressure from Quartz, but Quartz is going to be under a bit of pressure from Seeb, who has the better of the ERS at the moment out of these guys. So if Seeb gets a good run out of the chicane, I mean, I could imagine Seeb potentially going for it into turn 9, but he doesn't get the best of runs, and that is going to allow Quartz to just get a little bit of a break. Here comes Finley now down the inside. Job done for the CPI man, but he runs a little bit deep. That just opens the door for Nico to potentially come back at him, but Nico is going to think better of it. Meanwhile, in this train outside of the top 10, well, I mean, Power's in the top 10, but everyone outside the top 10, you got Lars with a 3-second time penalty, Acid in 12th, and then we got the OVR pairing of Groot and NASCAR in 13th and 14th. Quartz with a 3-second time penalty, and that's big. That's big for GT10, because now Wards and Nico can play around with that because they know Acid is outside of the top 10. This is big, and with that 3-second time penalty, it means that the quads could fall to the back of this potential train right here. Potentially, maybe even fall to 10th in total, depending on the gap between these guys and the likes of Powers and Lars by the end of the race. But it is right now looking good for FRT to potentially jump themselves into P4 in the standings. This will be a big moment for FRT if they are able to do so and get themselves up into P4 in the standings. Leon putting a bit of pressure on Indian at the tail end of this train. Looking at the gap, of course, last 3.2, 3.3 off the back of Leon, and of course under pressure from Acid. Powers was in P10, but it looks like he's been overtaken by both Lars and Acid, and this is it's a race to forget right now for Never Last Racing, because Syra had the issues in qualifying that put Syra all the way down at the back to start this race. Then the early pit stop for damage. Lars spinning off the back of Lafiti in the opening laps. It's not been a race for Never Last Racing. The fortunate thing for Never Last Racing is EVE's not really taking advantage of this. So it looks like they're going to be securing P2 in the championship. And CPI, I mean, Finley right now is having a great time leading this race. He is under a little bit of pressure from the likes of Nico and Lafiti, and behind him, in fact, here comes Nico potentially down the inside. No, backs out of it. Lafiti is going to be sitting there waiting for his opportunity to go for the move, and it looks like Powers getting the job done on Lars there, and Lars actually potentially could be out of shape as he makes contact there with NASCAR. Lars down to 13th place. Is Lars going to get this up? Yes, he is. He's going to sit in behind the OBR man. And this is not what you want if you are a fan of Never Last Racing, because Lars, from what was a fantastic qualifying position, P3, P4 on the second row, got himself up in the P3, taps the rear of Lafiti, does a half spin off it, and since then it has just been a monumentally downhill for Lars in terms of what's happened in the race since that point. Lap 13 of 29. Finley leads the way. Nico in second place, but under pressure from Lafiti, who's going to try it all the way around the outside. And this potentially could open the door for Wards to score on Bubble Wards as Wards comes out of the chicane, and potentially might be able to get this job done now on Lafiti, as he's going to look to the outside line for turn number 9. Around the outside, Lafiti's going to hold the inside line, side by side, wheel to wheel action between Wards and Lafiti. Wards gets the better traction from out of the corner. They're still side by side. Lafiti holds the inside. Wards have to hold it around the outside, and Lafiti there. Job done as Syra has left the session. So more misery and pain for NLR as Syra's connection has dropped Syra out of this race. Hopefully Syra is able to get back in. I unfortunately do not have Syra as a friend to invite Syra back in at this moment in time. So heartbreak there for Syra. If we are going to be able to get Syra back in if possible. I mean, I don't know if Omar has completely left the session. If Omar hasn't, hopefully Omar will be able to send an invite to Syra. And there we go, Syra has joined. Fantastic. That is what we like to see. As everyone is kind of settling down right now the top 9 in the DRS string. And then we got the battle for P10 between Acid, Powers, NASCAR, Lars and Groot in this. So that's Lars in the wall, traction, dropping it, coming out of the chicane, and Lars is around. Heartbreak again for Never Last Racing, and that will actually promote Plex up into a points paying position, because Lars is going to have to make a pit stop. He's got to change that front wing. That front wing now has taken a real knock to it, and Lars is definitely going to be in the pits at the end of this lap. Plex right now is going to be back into a points paying position. Seed into the pits, so I mean, Lars, even though he will have to get that front wing repaired, it doesn't look like he's going to lose anything more than what the front wing repair would be. I mean, he might have came into the pits at the end of this lap regardless. But Acid into the pits, Sieb into the pits, and now Lars into the pits as well. As Plex will get himself up the order, and that is Rizzo. Rizzo's around in the final sector, getting himself going again. No safety car deployed for any of the guys getting themselves back into the race, but Rizzo dropping it in the final sector. I almost had the Fiti vibes from a few seasons ago. Rizzo though decides to come into the pits and retires from the race. As OSA back through potentially on NASCAR. NASCAR going to hold the inside line, and they're going to be side by side now, coming through turns 10, 11 and in towards turn number 12. It looks like Power, so down the inside gets the job done, but NASCAR not giving this up without a fight. He is going to fight this every step of the way. This is what we like to see. Leon into the pits for IRT, looking to try and get a bit of an undercut along with his teammate Sieb. And Plex, that shows you how much time Plex has lost in this race. Not having DRS and having that drive-through penalty. He's a full pit stop behind Sieb in this race now. Groot also into the pits. We're just going to see where Groot is going to come out in all of this, and I believe Acid will be miles ahead. But Lars is the interesting one, because Lars obviously having that front wing repair. He's lost more time than what he normally would have. It'd be interesting to see just how much time Lars has lost in this, and he's 10 seconds off the back of Groot. So the man he was in a DRS train with, who he had the visions of, that spin plus the front wing repair has cost him 10 seconds on track. Going back up to the front though, Lafiti closing in momentarily on Nico. Nico trying to put the pressure on Finley here, coming through the final couple of corners. Will we see anyone dive into the pit lane? Yes, Wards is in. Wards is into the pit lane. So is Quad, so is Flame Joe, so is Indian. As these guys are now going to be looking for an undercut on the top three. Wards, it makes sense for him to go for the undercut, so both him and his teammate can be in prosperous positions by the end of this race. Remember guys, it is still mathematically possible for FRT to jump GT10 in the championship for P4, and with Acid down there in 13th place and Nico and Wards being in that lead battle for the race win, along with Quats, but Quats has a 3-second time penalty. It's going to be very interesting at the end. The math is going to be, we're going to have some mathematicians on the side. I think there's going to have to be some mathematicians on the side to make sure that we find out who is finishing P4 in the championship. And obviously with Never Last Racing having the torrid time that they are having at this moment in time, Lafiti for EVE, if he takes a possible race win here, just gonna quickly check the standings as well, because it is 22 points for the race win. I believe as Lafiti and Nico into the pits. That's going to leave Finley out there vulnerable now for the undercut. So, if Lafiti was to take the race win here, the gap would be 6 points. The gap would be 6 points. That's not taking anything into account in terms of like Lars's finishing position or Cyrus or Plex, who is currently in P12 and trying to go long on those hard compound tyres. When he does make his pit stop, Lars, I think he will be falling down. But look at this, the undercut from the likes of Sieb, Wards, Quartz, etc. has done a absolute madness here, because Nico is down in P8, Lafiti's now in P10, Acid is in P11, and Wards and Acid trading positions there at the front. But Sieb right now is in a net race lead for IRT. So just when we thought FRT potentially has got an opportunity of climbing themselves into position to jump themselves ahead of GT10 in the standings, IRT are not going down without a fight. They want their say in this battle, as well as Sieb is the net race leader, Wards is in the net P2, Quartz in the net P3, Leon in the net P4, as Nico down the inside of Flame Joe for the net P5 position, with Indian just ahead of Lafiti. And Lafiti's got a lot of work to do if he wants to get himself the race win here. As now Finley and Bowers into the pits, and how much time has staying out cost the likes of Finley and Bowers. Remember, Finley was battling with Lafiti and Nico. He is going to be behind them now, but by how much is Finley going to be behind? Is he going to be outside the DRS immediately? It looks like he is. He's 1.5 off the back of Acid, so he has lost touch of the train. Acid has got himself into the train by going for the early undercut. He has got himself out of that battle for P10 in that train with the likes of Powers, NASCAR, Groot and Lars, and he's got himself into the train that is at the front battling for the race victory. But Ward's now getting onto the back of Sieb. You've got Nico now on the back of Leon. This is big for the championship standings between FRT and IRT. 6 points separating these two teams heading into tonight's race. And FRT had the advantage going into tonight's race with the 6 point lead. And Nico down the inside of Leon. Fantastic overtake there from Nico, getting the job done. As Leon's not giving this up without a fight. Down the inside goes Leon, this side by side in the final sector underneath the hotel. And it's going to be Nico that comes out on top for FRT. And right now, with the penalty situation for Sieb and Quartz, it's an FRT 1-2 right now, as the penalty situation would drop Sieb and Quartz out of their respective positions and would promote Wards and Nico into first and second. It would promote Leon into third, who is under pressure right now from Flame Joe for LR, as Legacy Racing wants to try and get themselves as many points as possible, because let's not forget, Legacy Racing, they're down in P10. They are quite considerably some way off the back of FGE, and I just realised there's only the one driver here tonight in Flame Joe, so yeah, it's actually mathematically impossible for Legacy Racing now to get themselves ahead of FGE. So I mean, FGE, considering the race and the season that they've had in totality, I mean, for them to close the gap as much as they would want to in the standings, just it's they're not going to jump anyone, but they can close up enough that it's not a Herculean gulf between themselves and the team ahead, as Leon and Lafiti side by side battling out for P7, and Lafiti comes out on top. Meanwhile, you got Finley on the back of Acid here for P9 in this race. Finley's tyres will be better than Acid's. He's got 4-lap fresher tyres, and that will help Finley massively, especially coming towards the closing stages of this race. But Acid right now is doing a very good job in just holding on to this position, but it might be the time for the CPI man to get himself up the order as he goes around the outside at the hairpin. And has Finley got the traction around the outside? I think he does. And I think he's going to have the run that he needs on Leon as well. It's going to be 3 wide between Finley, Acid and Leon heading down in towards the chicane. And it's going to be Finley that comes out on top side by side still between Acid and Leon for P9 and P10. As you see, Paris and NASCAR, they're trading positions in behind as well. But still, this battle continues on as Wards gets himself ahead of Quartz for the race lead. On track. Wards gets ahead of Quartz and his teammate for the race lead as Nico right now in P2. It's an FRT 1-2 out on track, and that is 40 points gain right now for FRT, which will put them on 189. So right now GT10 is doing plenty enough to hold on to P4 in that regard. But it is still a few more laps to go in this race, and that can make all the difference in the world, especially if these guys completely fall away in terms of Quartz and Acid and fall all the way down the order. Because right now, Quartz and Acid, as long as it stays like this, they hold on to P4. If both of them are finishing to the tail end of the points, it's going to get very, very treacherous for them. Nevertheless, Racing, of course, are doing enough to hold on to P2 at this moment in time. The 3D trying to get the job done on Indian off track there, as that is Finley getting through on the pair, and Finley taking full advantage of that as the FRT drivers have swapped positions, and this is where the teamwork's going to come in now for FRT. They are going to literally just do a nice little switcheroo right now and just hold the ground, work together as a team, and that is what their game plan will be. Lafiti right now obviously down in P7. He will jump up to P5 with the time penalties of Quartz and Seam up ahead. It was not enough to do anything to Neverlast Racing's position at this moment in time. If, for example, Lafiti was to take the race win, the gap would be 6 points between them, and then you have to consider the likes of Plex and Lars down towards the tail end of the points, and there's a point gain there for Plex on Lars, so it would be 5 points, but Plex with the tyres he has, Powers with the penalties he has, potentially as Finley down the inside of Red Flame Joe goes off track, and here comes Lafiti coming through on the outside of Finley, and potentially could get the move done on Flame Joe and Sieb as well as we go into turn 9. Contact between Flame Joe and Lafiti, and that's going to allow Finley and Lafiti to go side by side once again, and Finley is going to get that position. I wonder if there was any wing damage picked up there for the Aston Martin. No wing damage visually on my end for Lafiti, but he is not going to be happy with that, that's for sure. Finley with a big snap at the rear as we are about to come on to lap 24 of 29. Nico for FRT leads the way ahead of his teammate in second place. Quartz in P3 for GT10, but with a 3-second time penalty will fall away from that. Flame Joe for LR for Legacy Racing, currently 10th in the championship standings. There's no chance for them to climb a position in the championship standings, so it means that they will remain 10th, but Flame Joe trying to get as many points for his team as possible to close the gap down by a considerable amount. Just for pride on it. I'm just going to say for pride. That's what Flame Joe is doing it for, as he's going to try to have a look on Sieb heading down in towards the chicane. Sieb will hold the inside line, runs a little bit deep, will hold the inside line again. A switchback momentarily there for Flame Joe, and he gets a switchback, he gets the traction. They're going to be side by side, but here comes Finley to make a free ride going down in towards turn number 9. Around the outside, Finley goes double overtake up into P4 and a net P3 in this race. So CPI man is on a charge now. Lafiti, what can he do for EVE? Oh, contact hitting the back of Red Flame Joe as Lafiti, I think, now getting a little bit flustered. Staying at the back of this Mercedes. Indigo in the chat saying hello. Hello, Indigo. We had James in the chat as well, lurking with the eyes, saying we are watching, and we are watching indeed. As Lafiti, I think, starting to get a little bit flustered behind Red Flame Joe. Finley, though, is starting to come alive, and he is on for the podium, the final podium position. But can Finley take away a 1-2 finish from FRT? Can he win this race? Can the CPI man wrap up the season with another race win for the champions of Season 8 in CPI? And Lafiti is going to try and send one down the inside. Runs a little bit deep, does Red Flame Joe to give the room on the inside. And now here comes Lafiti. He is on the charge and he wants to get this move done. Side by side with Red Flame Joe into the break-in. But look at this, around the outside, Indian out of nowhere going around the outside. But look at the switch back there from Lafiti to get side by side. More contact made between and Lafiti there. Getting all out of shape. He just can't seem to get this move done on the LR man. And we're seeing it now, is getting elbows out to the fullest between these guys. And now the top four have broken away from IRT Seeb. And Seeb has pretty much broken away from Red Flame Joe, Indian and Lafiti. Lafiti, this is not what he wants. This is not what he needs. This is not in the game plan for Lafiti, but he has to get this position. He has to get himself up the order, because it's the only hope that EVE have in terms of climbing themselves further and further up the standings in terms of the championship. I mean, right now, Neverlast Racing are perfectly in position. Lafiti has the pace to win this race, but he cannot get through on Red Flame Joe and Indian at this moment in time. And now he's lost the pack as Seeb 1.7 off the back of the top four now. It is now come down to this. Will it be FRT or will it be CPI on the top step of the podium? We know right now, as it currently stands, it's going to be a double podium for FRT. But will it be a 1-2, will it be a 1-3, or will it be a 2-3 finish for FRT? Will CPI Finley take the race when he's got himself ahead of Quartz right now? And if I'm Quartz, I am happy to get myself towed along by these guys, because maybe I could keep P4 in the championship, which will do more than enough to hold off the charges of FRT in terms of the standings. Because right now GT10 are doing more than enough to make sure that they hold on to a P4. And I believe with Lafiti finishing inside the... Oh, Leon's out this race. Leon is out the race. Is that going to trigger a safety car? Will we get a late safety car here? Lap 27 of 29. It would only be out for a lap, but no safety car is deployed. Not even a virtual safety car deployed in this race. As Red Flame Joe gets himself through. As Ward's and Finley. Oh, Ward's getting out of shape. I just come on board with that. Ward's out of shape. Coming through the chicane. Finley putting Ward's under pressure. Now Ward's is at the back of this train. Nigo leading this train. And now Finley separates the FRT pairing along with Quartz. And now Lafiti is got himself up into P5, which right now would be P4 with Quartz's time penalty. But this is where things are going to get interesting. If these guys are battling tooth and nail, it's going to allow Lafiti to get himself back into this. But as it currently stands, the only one that's getting hindered by Lafiti by this battling would be Quartz, due to the fact that he is just going to hemorrhage time to Lafiti, and obviously Red Flame Joe and Indian all penaltyless, and he could end up dropping behind them. 1.92 seconds the gap between Lafiti and Quartz. That is the gap right there. We're on the penultimate lap of this race. C with a 3-second time penalty. And IRT's hopes and dreams of a top 5 finish is completely dashed away in the space of a lap and a bit for IRT. As for I think they're doing more than enough to hold on to P6, so they shouldn't be worried about dropping any positions, because OVR, NASCAR and Groot, both of them are down the order, and at the moment Sieb is outscoring the pair of them. He might not be ahead of NASCAR by the end of the race in terms of the penalties, but the point total is nowhere near enough for OVR. So we come to the front of this race. It is FRT Nico leading the pack as we head on to the final lap of this race. Finley for CPI, the champions here in Season 8. Will it be CPI wrapping the season off with another race victory? What about Wards? Wards, Powers is out of the race. Powers has done a Lafiti in the final sector, and absolute heartbreak there for FGE. And I mean, it's perfectly fine. FGE are not going to get jumped by LR regardless of what Red Flame Joe does in this race, but for FGE, I'm sure they would have wanted to finish the season off with double points, but here comes Finley with DRS. Job done. What about Quads? Is Quads going to be able to go for a move? No, he's not. And now let's see if Finley's going to be able to hold off Nico as we come on to the second DRS straight. It's going to be Nico back into the race lead. Finley is going to be trying his best to get through. And now will we see Nico try to hold off Finley enough that Wards can get himself second? That will be the question. Will Nico back up Finley into Wards here? I don't think so. I think Nico's just going to be happy with taking the double podium. I think FRT are going to be happy taking the double podium, because it's going to be FRT Nico taking victory ahead of CPI Finley. It's an FRT double podium with Wards getting P3. Quads, he did have enough in the end to stay in P4. Lafiti in P5. Red Flame Joe in P6. Indian P7. Acid P8. NASCAR P9. And then C complete in the top 10. Outside the top 10, we have Plex in 11th. Groot in 12th. 13th will go the way of Lars. 14th will go the way of Astraf. And of course, 15th. Syra has disconnected, I think, several times. I don't know if Syra did get back in the lobby in the end, but Syra there for the last racing in 15th. 4 non-finishers in Paulus, IRT Leon, VMV Rizzo, and Omar for CPI. In terms of the championship positions, I believe everything stays as it is. There has been no changes in the order. FRT would have closed up though on GT10, but not overtaken. And the same would have happened with LR versus FGE and Vicio and GT10 versus Neverlast Racing as well. But a double FRT podium, a race win for FRT Nico, seals off Season 8 here in the Esports Masters League. And let's run you through the order one more time. For the final time here in Season 8 is FRT Nico, who takes a victory ahead of CPI's Finley in second place, and FRT Wards completes the podium with GT10's Quads in fourth place, Safiti for EVE in fifth, Red Flame Joe for LR in 6th, with VMV's Indian in 7th, GT10's Acid in 8th, with OVR NASCAR in 9th, and then IRT Sieb rounding out the top 10. EVE's Plex in 11th, OVR's Groot in 12th, Neverlast Racing's Lars in 13th, FGE's Ashraf in 14th, and then Syra in 15th place. Our non-finishers were Prowess, Leon, Rizzo, and Omar. And that brings an end to the final race of the season and brings an end to the season in its totality. Guys, what a season it has been here in Console 1 in the Esports Masters League. CPI thoroughly deserved champions of Season 8. And of course, we are going to be ushering in a era coming into the brand new game cycle of F1 25 as we move in to the Nations E League, which of course will be getting underway on F1 25. But to give you guys a little taster of the Nations E League, there is of course going to be a social race in a fortnight's time on the 30th of April. It will be the Mexican Grand Prix. It will be about national pride. Who will be coming out on top there? Well, I can tell you one thing for certain. You will see myself in the commentary box, and of course you'll be seeing Bolt in the commentary box alongside me as well for that. So you will be getting both of us in the comments box for the social race in a fortnight's time. And of course we will be back for the brand new season, moving on to F1 25. But guys, a massive congratulations to CPI for the effort that they have done this season in sealing the Console 1 Championship. Massive thank you to everyone that has tuned in over the course of the season, showing the support for all the drivers and all the teams out there. And of course, massive thank you to our sponsors at Ronin Printworks 3D as well for sponsoring the league over the past season. Guys, that is going to bring an end to the action here tonight, bring an end to the season, an end to the Esports Masters League for this for now. It'll bring an end for now in the Esports Masters League as we move into the Nations E League. And ladies and gentlemen, we will be here in a fortnight's time for the social race. Until then, guys, I have been Michael Edwards, and I'll catch you in a fortnight's time at Mexico. Until then, guys, it is good night from me. Good night.